Do you think that, putting people in these labels and putting people in these boxes, it just makes it easier for the person like learning this knowledge, right? So, the stereotypical, if you're good at maths, if you're good at science, become an engineer. If you're good at maths, like fly a plane or something like that. So, do you think it's just easier? We are putting people into boxes because it's easier for us to remember? And why is it like easier for us to remember in that sense?
Why should it be easy, right? It is one of the more important things to do. So, why are we looking for the easiest way? We don't look for the easiest way when we do things that we ascribe value to. We look for the right way of doing them, right? At work, if I'm constantly looking for the easiest way to do something, chances are it's not going to be the best one. And we understand that there because we again ascribe monetary value to it, or benefit, like immediate benefits value to it. So when something is hard, doesn't make it less worth doing. In fact, it might be more worth doing because building those sort of neural pathways for yourself and building those social pathways for people around you is equally important, right?
Yeah.
So change is hard, but to accept it makes it easier for people that come after you,
And it
right?
makes it more progressive. And I think even the word progressive is taken really badly in our society today, because I see a lot of men like, shouting about the fact that, oh, this is a westernized culture. This westernized culture will ruin us and this progressiveness will ruin us. Is it a way for them to stay in power? And mostly, I do see this in like toxic work cultures, like with bosses and the boys' club. So, is this a way to stay in power?
Absolutely. See, the divide and rule is something, especially like in our part of the world, we've heard repeatedly, right? It's always easier to get people to fight with each other than to fight the people themselves, right? So when you break people up into smaller factions, whether that is on nationality, race, gender, caste, creed, sexuality, whatever it might be, it's just easier to pit them against each other because by creating a category, you're creating an anti category,
Yeah,
right? You're
yeah.
creating the other.
Hmm.
So it's very easy to be like, oh, you fight with you, then I don't have to fight you at all. You fight each other, make each other weak, deplete each other's resources, deplete each other's energies, and then I come in, swoop in, and be like, oh, okay, I've saved the day. So it's very easy to do. The playbook is super simple. This is how power structures have always worked. This is not new. What's new is that we have more information, we have more history, we have more recorded history, but we keep falling for the same thing. We keep pitting man against woman, woman against other woman, man against a man of a different skin color, and then we expect to have better results. And that is, it's not only is it silly, it goes against everything that we value, which is intellect and efficiency. We value that so much, and yet we keep laughing in its face, doing the same things, expecting different results.
It's like if nothing changes, right?
Absolutely.
You need to make some massive change in the way you approach women, in the way you approach women in a working environment, in a corporate job, and then you will see some change. So, talking about, the boys' club, why did it start existing?
Because people are propense to community, right? Anywhere that you find people coming together
Hmm.
over things that they have in common. Now, there was a time, of course, where at the highest levels of corporate existence, it was mostly men, right? Where you had women, it was mostly secretaries, people who had to do the typing, just things like that, or people who didn't have to do things that necessarily needed them to think about a career, right? Just about even in Western society, all they had to do is get up until marriage, and then if they were working class, they continued to work. But if they were middle class or upwardly mobile in any way, they wanted to marry, or they were married off and expected to be out of the workforce, right? And being in the workforce was seen as, oh, you need a two income household, you must not be doing so well, right? That was the general view of it. So obviously, while you had a lot of men, you had them coming together over whiskey and cigars or whatever, however these boys clubs started, right? I don't know, in my mind I have a very sort of madman like idea of like how it all started, but obviously they came together as men because that was the only thing they had in common, right? Or that was the most obvious thing they had in common. what they've done is hold on to that, because we see these things as zero sum games. The
Yeah.
moment you see that, hey, women are coming into the workforce, and I've seen this very often also, women at the highest of the highest in the highest offices, corporate wise speaking, um, seem to, or have in the past seem to sort of give away some of their femininity or do away with some of their femininity. Wearing the pants,
Yeah.
right, is like one of those phrases that gets thrown around quite a bit. Or they might not, like, I know for a fact that, if you're a woman in the workplace who's wearing like red lipstick and a bold eyeliner, suddenly it's like, she really she cares about the way she looks. Why shouldn't she? Men wear suits. That stuff is not comfortable. They care about how they look and come across. But suddenly when a woman does it, it's seen as frivolous, right? So we don't value it as much. We're not thinking to ourselves, oh, she really cares about this place. She wakes up 15 minutes earlier so she can come here looking like that, inspiring other people to lean into
Yeah.
their femininity or to lean into their identity and continue to do a damn good job of their work, right? We always sort of see it as, oh, she's frivolous, she just cares about the way she looks. We don't extend the same kind of prejudice to men.
Caring about the way you look is firstly the most shallow thing to bring up in a corporate office, in a corporate structure,
Where
because
everything is all about appearances.
exactly, everything is it is so shallow, and then you're going to complain about how shallow is shallow, which is really
It's a
ridiculous.
race to the bottom,
It's
really.
really ridiculous. But what I do see, like, the biggest problem in a corporate structure is that people always, when they hire a woman, they hire them based on how far along in the marriage are they. Are they single? um do they complain a lot, are they very sensitive? Like, they put them to a test to see if they break, and then they hire them, which is ridiculous. So how does have you faced something, or how does that work in that structure?
Absolutely. I think that, a lot of the times, and there are sort of provisions in place for these things to be discouraged. Employers should not be able to ask you about your
Hmm.
marital status or about, do you plan on falling pregnant or do you plan on having kids, etc. They shouldn't be able to ask you that, legally speaking. But who's going to take these corporates to tasks? We don't have that kind of time. Right? We don't have that kind of privilege that we sit around suing all the people who didn't hire us and then also go out looking for a job, and then everyone is going to be like, oh, she's a difficult woman because she sues people who don't hire her. Now what are you going to do? So people will always tell you that there is legal recourse, but then when you go for that legal recourse, you're a difficult woman. If you don't go for that recourse, you're a timid woman, so you will not thrive in a corporate environment. Now, do if you do something, it's seen as negative. If you don't do something, it's seen as equally negative in a completely different way, right? What that does is essentially it's just built to discourage you bringing your femininity to work, which is something I feel very strongly about, because it is our femininity exactly that needs to be brought into the workplace. It is those softer ways that we have been socialized that the workplace needs more of, being nicer to one another, not necessarily more formal, but being kinder, being more empathetic, being more equitable across hierarchies, because in a corporate structure, far be it from me to say there shouldn't be hierarchies. Those hierarchies exist because that's how work needs to get done. Perhaps someday we will get to a place where it's not that way, but I don't have the solution to it. What I do have the solution to is, how do you include women in places where decisions are made, such that, I mean, it goes as simple as what temperature the office should be, right? You will always have women with their like lovely little outfits and then carrying like three covers because the office is too cold, because a man has decided it should be 17 degrees Celsius and not 23 degrees Celsius, right? And because they have their three-piece suits, they're all right. They're wearing their wool and tweed and whatever they have to wear. But even, or generally, in general, men have a higher tolerance for cold than women do. Right. So this kind of thing, right? Something as silly and small as that, seemingly silly and small as that, to something as large as, where do you invest? What kind of industries do you invest in? What do you incentivize? Whom do you incentivize? Right? When a woman is put in power, also very often, if a woman is appointed as the CEO, suddenly the headline is, this place appoints woman CEO. You don't do that when it's a man. Of course, I understand that it is because it is an outlying decision, but you have reduced her to her femininity or her sex or her gender, and then you refuse to let her bring it to work. Or when she does, you kind of see it as, oh, she's a difficult woman, or oh, she's that kind of person, oh, she's sort of trying to get more women in. Of course, you will try and
That's
get
the
more women
point.
in. That's the point. You're trying to build community everywhere you go. You're trying to lead by example. For a woman, you need to be unapologetic about the fact that your first sort of port of call is to emancipate and to sort of elevate other women around you. It's the best you can do because you come from a place of empathy and not from a place of diversity and inclusion, right? I'm not doing it because it looks good on paper. I'm doing it because no, I wish someone had done it for me, right? I'm trying to be the elder sister I always needed. So I think if women approach the workplace like that, I think it makes it a lot more fun for them. I know from my personal experience, workplaces where I have more women have been more fun. Every time two women don't get along in the workplace, the first sort of conversation is, oh, these two women are not getting along. But men can fight all day long and it will be, oh, this is healthy conversation. We must sort of go, we must have conflict. Conflict builds very bold decision making. But if two women don't get along, oh my God, then it's a soap opera, right? That's how we've been trained to see these things, and that's why we see them that way. But if we perpetuate them, then it's on us.
And what you said really resonated about women being difficult. Just because we have two other questions to ask, only because you were not clear enough and you have not included us in those questions, or our opinions are not counted. We have a question, we are curious. Now we're difficult to work with, and then you don't want to hire a difficult woman. And what the hell is a difficult woman?
Every woman is a difficult woman. Every woman who has, like you said, asked an extra question. Every woman who has taken up space. Every woman who has said no. We are all difficult women, and we should strive to be difficult women because only difficult women get anything done. Only difficult people get anything done. Nobody has sat around and said, you know what? Everything is fine. Things are great the way that they are. If we done that, we'd be nowhere. We'd have no industries, we'd have no ambition, we'd have no Wi-Fi, we'd have nothing, we'd have no technology. Difficult people are celebrated. We look at like a Steve Jobs, right? We look at Warren Buffett, but we're like, oh, they're so eccentric and they have so much character and they're so quirky, and Steve Jobs only ever wore black turtlenecks. I mean, sure, do that. Great fashion statement. But what is it really doing other than just announcing to the world that I'm a very particular person? So men are particular and women are difficult if they want things a certain way. Right now, imagine if you were somebody or if you're a woman who turns up to work in a red sari every day. You'd become the woman in the red sari. The sari would be wearing you, not the other way around. But when Steve Jobs wears a black turtleneck, it's like, oh, look at him. He doesn't want to spend those 10 seconds in the morning thinking about what to wear. So he has optimized his life. It's that simple.
Yeah.
So what we value and how we value it, the lenses we see it through, the biases we have, color everything. The moment we make ourselves aware of these biases, the world becomes a more lovely place to live in because we can access it from a place of empathy and see things for what they are versus how the narrative that is being fed to us. It is genuinely freeing, and I hope that more people can do it.